What would it look like if I was radically vulnerable? Vulnerability, if I were to define it, would be something like the absence of defense. And I think the reason why I'm so interested in this topic, what does real, authentic vulnerability look like, is because I think it's in some way related to the subject of love. Dare I say, what people, generally speaking, ultimately desire is to be seen, to be witnessed in their totality, to be recognized, and to be valued in spite of everything that seems wrong about themselves. I know that there's so much that's wrong about me, my inability to stay focused, the ways that I deceive myself, my very apparent greed masquerading as ambition. The list goes on and on. I mean, this whole video could be the many ways in which I don't live up to the virtues that I think are important in life. But as I've lived my life, I've found that what makes us human is that same battle. Solzhenitsyn has a quote, and this is not what he said verbatim, but he says something along the lines of, "The line between good and evil is not outside, but inside the heart of every man. The line that divides that good and evil is within us." And I very much feel that. I think that everyone has the capacity to embody very dark things, which leads to pain or inflicting pain on others. But equally so, everyone has the capacity for good. I think it's intuitively foolish to think that there are good people and bad people. I think that's a radical oversimplification of the human being. The human being is the most fascinating thing that I've ever encountered in life. There's nothing more fascinating than an individual, more than anything else. Human beings are so intricate, so complex, so paradoxical. We hate and we love and we dream and we default to our vices. But the commonality that I've found in all of the individuals that I've ever come across in life is that to some degree, we're all inclined instinctually almost to guard those parts of us that we believe make us weak. Humans hide certain aspects of themselves purposefully so as not to be judged, so as not to become an outcast. We perform, we wear masks, we manipulate ourselves out of compliance, and in so doing we deceive others by not expressing honestly who we are and how we feel, and we also deceive ourselves by acting in a way that goes contrary to how we really feel and what we really believe and what we really desire. And I think that has been such a paradox for me. I have this idea about who I want to become. I have this idea about who I am now. You could call it a self-image. But when I have this idea about who I am and I encounter throughout the happenings of life, I encounter some sort of data point or proof that goes against who I think I am, it's like my mind has a problem that it can't really reconcile. It's like, hey, you are a brave person. And I discover something I've done or maybe something that I haven't done that proves that I was actually a coward in that specific scenario. Or, I consider myself a disciplined person and I find that, hey, right here in this situation, you did the opposite of that. You were actually quite passive and lazy. So it's like, how do you deal with that? There's an inconsistency, an incoherency in my mind, and both my self-concept and the very real deficiency, let's say, are coming from the same source, me. I believe I'm this way, but I'm also doing this thing that is contradictory. But one of the things that I've learned is that this self-concept, this idea about who I think I am and who I think I should be, even that is also a very prideful and stubborn conceptualization that's materialized from my ego. It's like I have this boundary that I've drawn around myself. It's like, this is what I am. And every time you stray, it's like, no, that's not me. Carl Jung talks about the process of individuation, and so he would characterize these parts of our nature that we often exclude from our self-concept. He would refer to those things as like our shadow. So we neglect certain parts of ourselves and don't consider them part of us, and so they become repressed and they are buried deep into the recesses of our mind, but they don't disappear, right? That laziness or that greed, they don't go away. It's all a part of me, but it's in the act of reintegrating that shadow, acknowledging the darkness within me, and through a process of alchemy, the mixing together of those things to create a new substance, right? That we become broader people. And so I've spent a lot of time examining within myself, at least to the best of my efforts, what those parts of me actually are. And the first thing that I've realized is that what I consider me, again, my self-concept, is so much broader than I could have ever imagined, that I realized this mechanism, defining who I am, and my mind saying, no, you're this way, you're that way, is a mechanism that manufactures some level of consistency, and that creates, a little bit of comfort. It creates the opposite of anxiety to some degree, because I can expect and predict. I can say, I've never really been a pineapple person. And so that narrative that I'm agreeing to, right? I'm not a pineapple person, allows me to navigate scenarios in the future where, someone offers me a pineapple pizza. I have a response that's ready. I can just deploy it in that moment. They say, hey, would you like pineapple pizza? And I'd say, oh, sorry, I'm not a pineapple person. And it creates a little bit of order in the unpredictable nature of life and reality. But that mechanism often works against us. It bars us from being saturated by the vivid and complex reality that we live in. And practically speaking, you bar yourself from experiencing with more breadth because of that. And simply put, I would much rather live a life where I've at least tried pineapple pizza and not liked it, rather than live a life where I never try pineapple pizza because I've somehow created or bought into a narrative where I can't be someone that tries it. And so in this reflection, I think what's rising to the surface is that I have to be very careful about how I define myself and the stories that I tell myself about who I am. Because the fact of the matter is, I could try pineapple pizza. And I actually like Hawaiian pizza, by the way. It's just an analogy. I think oftentimes when I examine myself in times where I feel stuck, or where I feel like something isn't working, or I feel as though I'm caught in a loop, more often than not, it's because of this blind adherence to a statement, a declaration that says, I am not someone that fill in the blank, But my hope and dedication has always been to dissolve those statements, to recognize that in doing so, I'm just limiting myself. That the opportunity for me to be more than that is very much available to me. The choice to try the pineapple pizza, even if I say I'm not someone that does, is just as available to me as refusing to eat it. So the conclusion can be distilled into something like, just try it. Just try the pineapple pizza. You might not like it. Just do it. See how it is. I think that whenever you're at a threshold where you feel stuck, or you feel like you're perpetuating the same exact cycle over and over again, the real solution isn't complex. It's just, what if you just tried to do something that you never did before? What if you discovered something new about yourself that maybe changed the way that you live, changed the way you see yourself? And there's something very freeing about that, And if there's one hope that I have for you who's watching this, I hope that you can walk away knowing that you have permission to do that. You can take yourself seriously, but also give yourself permission to step outside of who you think you need to be. Just try. It's okay to try. It's okay to do something different. Yeah.